And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another amazing episode of Voices from the Grid. I am joined by Pink Ranger Brian Massey.
Hey everybody, what's going on?
And I am the eternal, the ever snarky Red Ranger Sasha Kaplan. And today we are tackling The Darkest Day, One Last Hope, and The Fall of the Phantom. If my voice gets a little scratchy, I apologize. I'm getting over a cold that morphed into something else. I don't know what, but I'm fine. Everything's fine. But my
I
voice
mean,
still gets a little raspy.
you and me both. I mean, we're both kind of. I just got over an illness, so I feel you.
That is an
So,
illness at the time of the recording of this episode, not an illness
well,
at the time of the airing of this episode.
yeah.
Clear.
I hope I'm okay when this comes out. That'd be a
That'd be bad.
weird
That'd be bad.
foreshadowing.
So anyway, today we're going to start with The Darkest Day. So I'll read the synopsis and then we'll jump straight into it. Divatox's brother, General Havoc, arrives from the depths of space, bringing with him a massive orbital battle station, the space base. Foreshadowing. His army of robot soldiers and his Zord, the Metallosaurus. Havoc succeeds in defeating and capturing the Turbo Megazord. So let's start with the fact that actually, let's start with Elgar trying to throw rocks at Cassie and TJ when they're hiking. Like, whose idea was that?
Whose idea was that? I'm sure
Probably
it was
Elgar's.
Yeah. And the only joke I can really make about that is like, do you remember that scene in Batman the Animated Series where, what was it? God, was it Killer Croc was like, I threw a rock at him. It was a big rock. That's literally all I got.
Yeah, and those rocks do not look like real rocks at all.
Oh, styrofoam from Hobby Lobby, baby.
Hey, now. I'm sure it's very secure cardboard, okay? But yeah, that was a pretty lame attempt to destroy that would be the lamest the most half-ass attempt to destroy the Rangers.
And I mean, like, it's kind of like at this point, you guys are like stalking them. You guys are tracking them down. Like, at what point do the Rangers just like go and get like a, like a 50 feet away from me? Well, obviously that's not the case, but like, it's like, if you're gonna attack me, just attack me. Quit like stalking me, you know?
So
I don't know.
meanwhile, Divatox is very distracted and she doesn't hear the phone ring. And Rygog is like, hey, you have a phone call. And she's like, girl, I do not care. But this isn't now, did you know something about Divatox before we get into everything?
Yes, I believe that she is now being played once again by Hillary Shepard.
That is right. This is the first
Yes.
official episode of her back as Divatox. And what's interesting is that it actually took me like a couple minutes to notice. Because I think the way that both actresses played Divatox, they copied each other. So, whatever Hillary had built, can't remember the other actress's name, she followed.
Was it Carol Hoyt?
Yes.
Yeah.
Carol sort of mimicked and she did her own thing, but she tried to follow what Hillary had done previously. And so Hillary's continuing that momentum, which for like a little kid, yeah, Divatox looks a little different, but Divatox doesn't feel different.
I'm not gonna lie, I think Carol did a fantastic job.
Oh yeah, 100%.
She did a really good job, and it was almost to the point where like I just remember watching and like I had to kind of go back and go, wait a minute, hold on. Oh, okay, yeah. And, like I honestly couldn't tell, and like it was so seamless. It was just really well done. Like I got to give them props on that. Like Carol did a fantastic job keeping, like you said, the momentum going with Divatox, and then Hillary coming back as I believe she was pregnant at the time. So she comes back, having just created life, if you will, and then like gets right back to it. I'm like, that's impressive. That's really well done.
So because there's no like everything is week to week to week, right? So there's no,
Mhm.
all of the episodes air one week after another. There's not a lot of breaks. Um,
Unless
Although
like they
it seems
announce like
like
there's going to be like a period. I think because they used to do that. They used to do like blocks at a time, and then they would go like a week or two without or something. But
what's
I could be.
interesting is that based on this, there's like a week gap, a week or so less 20 or like a 3 day gap between when time freezes over and then the darkest day. And then the darkest day, One Last Hope, The Fall of the Phantom, and Clash of the Megazords all aired. Sorry, no, there's a 2 day gap between One Last Hope and The Fall of the Phantom. And then The Fall of the Phantom and Clash of the Megazords aired back to back.
Hmm.
On 2 different days. So that was Fall of the Phantom was the 25th, and then Clash of the Megazords was the 26th of 1987. So it's kind of weird. But anyway, so there's this, and then The Darkest Day and One Last Hope, there's a 1 day gap between them. But I wonder if Hillary had come back a little bit earlier and she had seen, Carol doing diva talks. Because it would have made sense for her to kind of see what's been happening. Because, like, again, as you said, everything got like it flowed really easily into each other. So props to both of them.
Yeah. You know what? I feel like if we bump into either of them at a convention anytime in the near future, we should absolutely ask that question. I think that's a really good question. Because I don't know if that's something that's on like behind the scenes DVD or something. I'm sure that that's been asked like once or twice before, but like I would love to like hear it and like maybe have that on recording sometime. So for the future.
This is the
Um,
real questions, the real heart of what VFTG is for. Asking the random questions no one else does.
yes.
Um, so anyway, so Diva Talks gets this phone call, but she doesn't answer the phone, and then her brother, General Havoc, appears. And he brings with him this massive battle station that I guess Diva Talks had asked him to build. Did I understand that right?
Yes. I think she and she had kind of commissioned something and I guess she had forgotten about it.
Well, it was a
So,
hundred years ago.
yeah.
So
I
tell
mean,
me, yeah, go ahead.
I do wonder how fast 100 years flies because I how old is Diva Tox again?
Mm.
Because like if she's old enough, then like 100 years could easily just be like a week to her or something. You know what I mean? Anyways.
Oh, so according to the wiki, because all question answers, Diva Talks was adopted. We knew that.
Mhm.
She was also in a relationship with a pharaoh, and they became engaged. But Pharaoh called the engagement off and left her on at the altar. 900 years later, she ordered a space base from her brother General Havoc. So I wonder if it's just like in Earth years versus non-Earth years kind of a thing.
Hmm. And so if we're talking, she ordered it 100 years ago, and this is taking place in 1996, and that means that was 1896. Add on so she's like 1,200 or something
Probably,
at
yes.
least.
Looking good. Looking good, Diva Talks.
I mean, looking way better than I ever will if I'm like 1,000 years old.
So let's start with what are your thoughts on General Havoc when he is first? We'll get to like thoughts at the end of like the episode of what we think about General Havoc, but what's the first impression of General Havoc for you?
Uh, I thought that he was made of spare pieces from the Machine Empire. Like it looked like he had like King Mondo's crown possibly, and that was adapted into a mask or something by the Car Ranger staff over in Japan. I thought he seemed like I don't know, he seemed competent, which is something that's been sorely lacking from the villains this time around.
He came prepared with like this cool space base, and then they
Mm-hmm.
go to the space base and it looks what does it look like?
Well, from the outside, like when it's like phasing in and out, it kind of looks like that base from what was it, Time Force, or I can't remember. It kind of looked like something very similar from like a later season that we'll get into when we get into that. But it looked kind of, maybe it was hold on, no, I think it was in space. If I'm being completely honest with you, which would make sense. Um, but like that footage is cool, but then like I don't know,
Can I be
like
honest? It sort of looks like a Borg cube that never got to be a Borg cube.
It looks like a Borg sphere.
It looks like a rejected Borg cube because it was
Yeah.
not an efficient design and the collective rejected it.
I'm just imagining like this Borg sphere, and it's like there's like a giant space cat that's batting it around, and it's like we are the Borg. We're hey, stop it. What are you
Or
like
even
batting it
better.
around?
All right, I got another one. It is a sphere that the Borg refused to assimilate because it was that lame.
Wow. I mean, like the set itself was like super dark and not well lit, and it just seemed like they took bits and pieces from like and again, this is just like me recalling it. It feels like they took bits and pieces from Lord Zed's set and were like repurposing it, which is why they have a balcony, which is why they have like this, that, the other. Like I don't know.
Well, according
I,
to the wiki, it was the base of the villain of for the villains of Car Ranger, which is the Sentai that Turbo is based on. Look at me pulling out Sentai facts.
oh my god, you're pulling out Sentai facts now? Oh god,
You
I'm
read your
useless here.
wiki. Um,
I might as well just go home. Like
no,
nobody else
no,
wants to
no.
bring up.
We still need you, Brian, because I will never actually. I can never sit through Sentai.
I'll
Um,
I'll get you someday.
So, all right, so we talked about the base.
Mhm.
Bulk, before we get to the plot of this episode, Bulk and Skull have an interesting new shtick, which lasts
Yeah.
for more than one episode. What do we think of this?
Well, it's kind of funny because I remember watching that because I wasn't super familiar. Like, just in case anybody's listening to this and they haven't heard my spiel on Turbo, just a little bit of reiteration. I kind of quit watching Turbo around the time that Jason David Frank left, so I didn't really watch these episodes where TJ takes over. So I didn't see this. Now, what's kind of funny is this is a monster tour. This is like a what is that? A monster sighting tour that they're running, and like Lieutenant's. This is what's hilarious about this is it's Lieutenant Stone's brainchild of all things. It's not. You would think it's Bulk and Skull's idea, but no, it's actually Lieutenant Stone's.
Lieutenant Stone, because I have a follow-up question for you once you're done.
Okay. So something I think is kind of funny about this is like they're touring different sites. Um, where it's like, oh yeah, these monsters showed up, and like, you'll see a Power Ranger and you'll see like a monster and all this stuff. And what's kind of funny, just a little bit of, inside baseball is they actually offer a tour like this kind of sort of at Power Morphicon. Bruno from MPR Toys did a really good video where like he hopped on a bus and they did a tour of California where it's like, here's where they filmed, and it's kind of like what Bulk and Skull are doing in this episode. Where it's like, this is the lake where like spaceship landed, and like I love the context where it's like, yeah, no, we all saw that spaceship, dude. What are you talking about? Like, come on, where are the Rangers? Rada, 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 rada. I thought it was a cool idea. And I thought it was cool that they were referencing stuff like that because it's like they're dropping names like I Guy and Pudgy Pig, and it's like, oh, well, I'm glad that they know the names of those monsters. I don't know how they know the names of those monsters, but it's cool that they're like name dropping them. Um, I think it's a cool idea, and I'm kind of shocked it took them this long to do it.
So then let me ask you my Lieutenant Stone question.
Uh,
Because there's a point where we get to the water
yes.
and we have some name drops of previous monsters like Pudgy Pig and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But then they start talking about a spaceship landing in the lake. And
Mm-hmm.
then Lieutenant Stone shows up and is like, this is nonsense. Let me ask you this. Lieutenant Stone has seen monsters, right? We know these monsters are from outer space because, Rita, Palace on Earth, we've all seen that. Okay. So we know that aliens and monsters exist. We know that monsters come from outside of the Earth to some extent to attack Angel Grove. Nowhere else in the
Right.
world but Angel Grove. So then why is an alien spaceship landing in a lake far-fetched? This is like a thing with him a lot.
Maybe he's trying to hold on to his sanity. I really don't know. I feel like that's the only logical thing. I was trying to do some mental gymnastics on this, and I was thinking like, well, maybe Bulk and Skull somehow, some way remember the alien rangers arriving. Because what was it? I think they had some ships that landed in that particular lake, if I remember
I think it
correctly.
was Divatox's ship. I think they saw it
It
at
was
the
Diva.
beginning of the
Okay,
season landing on Earth. I could be
gotcha.
misremembering, but I think that's
That very well could be it because I remember there like her Futurama ass looking ship just popped out of the water and like whatever. Uh, but uh, I was going back to like, well, Lieutenant Stone was a kid and maybe he doesn't remember, but somehow Bulk and Skull kind of. But then I was like, nah, that wouldn't work because like Bulk and Skull don't remember the events of Alien Rangers either. So yeah, okay.
I mean,
So
between I think Ben and I have talked a lot about, and I think we all have about how just like frustrating Lieutenant Stone is at times.
yes, it. You live in monster it's kind of like living near Area 51 and like being like, oh, all that alien stuff, like that's never going to make any money. It's like, dude, you live in Area 51. You live in Roswell. Like this is the
You
thing people come
just
here
to
to see.
clarify, Roswell and Area 51 are two separate locations.
Right. Well, sorry. My bad.
Just for those
It's
that are geographically challenged that might be listening.
to be fair, it's been a long time since I've done some deep diving on like UFO, little green alien men stuff. So I apologize for getting those two confused. And anybody who's a avid X Files fan, I apologize.
Yes, this
But
will be the name of Brian's new podcast, Roswell Area 51.
Roswell Area 51, who cares what the difference is? But it was. It's kind of like being like at Roswell and not leaning into the alien thing. It's like you're and also you're running a monster business where like this is your meat and potatoes. This is what's going to get you paid, and you're going to sit there in front of the people who are paying to see this and say, "Oh, that's ridiculous." That's like being a wrestling promoter and being like, it's fake, right? The wrestling's fake. They're not actually hurting each other. It's like, dude, what are you doing?
There
It's
is
it's
also like a little bit of a running gag throughout these three episodes revolving Bulk and Skull that we'll get to at the end. But it does involve something that you just brought up. So don't let me forget about it.
I'll try not to.
So
What can
let's
someone get?
talk about General Havoc's plan. What is his plan? And how does he accomplish it? Because he's got some cool tricks up his sleeve.
Well, he wants. I feel like his plan was multifaceted, and he was kind of like revealing his hand as we were watching the episode because it's not entirely as it's not like he's making this grandstand where it's like first I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do that, and then the world. It's not. He's not doing that. He's like,
He's being a
um,
little bit more subtle.
yeah. His plan obviously involves the Phantom Ranger, who Divatox is just such a fan of. Um, and
Wait, wait. Time out, time out. We're not, the Phantom Ranger comes later.
fair
That's not
enough.
this episode. Don't get too
Um,
far ahead. I have
I,
questions
I,
about
apo-
that.
I apologize. But somehow, some way, he's somehow, some way, he has set it up so that the Rangers just take L after L after L, and that includes um, the Turbo Megazord being kidnapped and like basically like almost destroyed.
Yeah, it's basically rendered, well, essentially he kidnaps the Megazord and ends up using his like at the end of the episode, or I guess the beginning of the next episode, we find out that he used the technology of the Megazord to adapt his, what was it called? Metallosaurus?
It's
That's
yeah,
a
I highlighted
mouthful.
this multiple times. It's Metallus. Oh my
It's a
god.
Metallosaurus. It's like for comic book
Yeah,
fans, it's like Metallo and a dinosaur smushed together.
fair enough.
Actually, speaking of that, what do you think about the Metallosaurus's design? Is it
It,
reminiscent of anything? Does it look ridiculous?
I,
Does it look very
okay,
Japanese?
it looks very Japanese. You know what it reminds me of? Do you know that King Ghidorah meme where it's like the two serious heads and then the goofy head? It looks like Serpentera with a derp face. That's kind of what it looks like. It looks like it's a little more upright and it's got a kind of a derp face. And also there's a seat in its forehead where Havoc can sit and control it because why not?
We like
I
it
mean,
when the bad guys get their Zords. It looks cool.
yeah, I don't know if this ever got a toy release, at least in the US either. I don't remember seeing something like that. At least not like a Zord. I don't remember seeing a Zord of that. But yeah, this thing comes in and like just stomps the Rangers and like um basically renders the Turbo Megazord inoperable and like it like to the moon with it and like damn like
And then, so what's interesting is also is that our bad guy has some minions. He has his own Piranatrons, basically, that are not Piranatrons. Did you notice anything about his minions?
they were multicolored.
They were multicolored. Is there anything? They are the basically, do you remember there was a bad guy a few episodes ago that had he was like a shapeshifter or something? And he had that same basic design. The one that who was it? Elgar married?
Did I review that episode?
I think
I can't remember.
I think we did.
It was either me or Mike. I can't remember. I don't remember Elgar getting married.
What might not have been Elgar, but I'm pretty sure it was Elgar.
Huh.
This is the problem of so many Power Rangers episodes that it sometimes life is difficult.
um so what you're saying is they repurposed that mask and they attached it to some minions.
Yes.
That's a fairly common trope in tokusatsu. Like it saves some money.
Hey, if you've got it, flaunt it. If you're gonna,
Yeah,
if you
Kamen
have
Rider
it,
does
use
that
it.
all the time.
Um,
Um,
but yeah, I like the Metallosaurus design. It actually looks intimidating.
mhm.
Um, especially in like later episodes when we get like a little bit more of like a closer look at it.
I will admit the power ups do make it look a little more menacing. But I stand by. Yeah, it looks a little derpy from like a distance.
Oh yeah.
And also I don't know if this was a reference or not, but like it just seemed like with the Sentai footage of it, where like all the noticeably like Japanese people are running around in the foreground. It seemed like that footage was way more like fuzzy, and I was like, is that like was that Car Ranger like making fun of Godzilla kind of sort of or doing an homage to that because that's kind of what that feels like, but I could be wrong. This isn't the Car Ranger podcast, obviously, but that's kind of something I picked up on. Was like, man, that footage is way fuzzier than even like the Car Ranger stuff.
I found the answer to my question.
You did.
So, and this was an episode that you and I reviewed.
Ah, okay.
It was the first, this is the one that appeared in Shadow Rangers. That's the one with all of the fun shadow shenanigans that didn't make any sense.
Oh
He's
yeah.
called the Shadow Chromite. And
Oh, that guy. Wow. Okay, wow, that was like beginning of the season.
that well, not
Holy,
the beginning of the season, but that was definitely the beginning of the Phantom Ranger saga, right?
yeah. I think so. Wait a minute. I'm
Oh
confusing
no,
that with
you're right. It was at the beginning of the season. That was like episode
I want to say it was episode 2,
4.
2 or 4. Yeah, okay. That makes more sense because like that was that one where like I think Aisha was working at the radio station and couldn't
Yes,
find the bomb on the radio tower, which was
maybe.
like right there. See that episode for my rant on that.
I don't know. Anyway, all of our misadventures and misremembering aside, let's get back to this episode. So it's interesting because we don't know why they decide to kidnap the Zord at the end of this episode. We'll find out the next episode. But my gut reaction was like, you're stealing it? Like you should just destroy it because they're gonna get it back because they're Power Rangers. But that doesn't
Right.
happen as we find out later. The last scene in this episode is kind of dumb because it's basically the Rangers. Like the Rangers are like, this is a big L for them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So they've lost their Megazord. They're up against this new bad guy who has this cool Zord that they don't know how to fight now because they don't have a Zord. And the Phantom Ranger shows up. And he's like, don't despair, Rangers. I may have a solution to your Zord problem. And Car's like, okay, let's go. He goes, oh, no, 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 no. It will all be revealed when the time is right. And I'm like, why?
Because the and I almost wanted them to be like because the to be continued sign's gonna about show up right now. Dun, dun, dun,
But
dun,
like,
dun, dun.
there's like, I noticed in these three episodes in particular, there's some like awkward dialogue when they are using, you caught that too?
And also, and I hate to say this, but like Selwyn Ward, like he is acting like him and Carlos's actors are like just uh wow, they are really distraught that the Megazord is gone, guys. Wow. I
Chalk that to like bad direction. Because he's better
probably
in other episodes. I think this was just that like whoever the director was for this episode, just like maybe was wanted something specific for the scene and it just didn't work because he didn't communicate it well. But something, but but
I
yeah,
don't know.
so
I'm just saying that was the take they went with. That's all I'm saying.
I think some of the other awkward moments were when they're actually doing the dubbing of the Sentai footage.
Mm.
We'll see that in the next episode, but like I can't get over I think there is a point where Roger Velasco actually overdubbed his original lines
Hmm.
for the episode. And I think one of those lines is at the end because they just sounded very different from the rest of it. But I'm still questioning the writing here. Like they could have said something like the Phantom Ranger could have said like, "Hey guys, I have a lead on a potential solution, but I don't want to get your hopes up if it's nothing. So I'm going to go and find it, but I just wanted to let you know that like I'm on your side. Don't give up. I have like there might be something there." But
Yeah, like instead of just being there like dangling a carrot in front of them, like no no no, hold it. Like George Clooney with that what is it like the espresso thing or whatever. It's like you gotta wait for it. It's like what are you talking about? Like it's a really bad reference, sorry, but like it just you're absolutely right. They could have totally written that to be more like, hey, we have we have a lead, but like we're still working on this. Like instead of just like, whoa, 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 hold on,
well, because
take your time here.
we want the Phantom Ranger to be mysterious.
Yeah. He knows something that we don't
He
know.
knows.
He
Which begs
knows.
the question of like you could have literally ended the episode without the Rangers and actually could have rewritten it to be just the Phantom Rangers stumbling in the tunnels going like I found it. The answer to the Rangers problem something like that and just cut it there. But nobody's
Literally
asking us to write Power Rangers.
literally anything but what we got. Because all it does is go, oh, well then what's the hurry up then? You're taking all the wind out of the sails on that.
Yep.
It's like the Megazord is up on the moon or like the space. I'm sorry, space. I,
Say that
maybe
5 times fast.
Megazord space base, Megazord space base, Megazord space base, Megazord space base, Megazord space base. ugh, it just it's not even.
So on that note, let's get into the follow-up episode because this like could have easily, I think, been like a 2 or 3 parter. Because of how the stories blend into each other and call it like the Havoc trilogy, the like the Havoc saga. But anyway, so One Last Hope is the 27th episode, and it is written by Judd Lynn and directed by Steve Markowitz, um who also directed the previous episode. Eh, but the previous episode was written by John Fletcher. So to defeat the Metallosaurus, the Phantom Ranger gives the Power Rangers a fleet of new rescue Zords, and this will not be the last time we hear the words rescue Zords. And transported into action by the Phantom Ranger's own Zord, Artillatron. La 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 la. That's a mouthful. Artillatron. So like the artillery and Tron, but whatever. So this episode actually starts with the revelation that the Phantom Ranger and General Havoc know each other, or General Havoc knows the Phantom Ranger.
Mm-hmm.
Demetria, meanwhile, is like being super nice to the Rangers and is like, Diva Talks can take your Megazords, but she cannot take away your freedom. I mean, courage. But and my reaction is like, well, at least she's not at least she never went back to the whole, I know we made fun of her earlier for it, but we're glad she's not doing everything with a question now. But
That was
also
literally
like,
my second. That was literally my second thing on my notes. Was like, thank God she's not asking questions anymore all the time.
but then at the same time, I kind of wish in that moment she did, because her solution is like, Detox can't take away your courage. And like, well, courage doesn't mean much when a giant monster robot steps on you.
A courage is going to protect me from this giant like footprint that I'm going to be embossed into. Sure, thank you.
There's also a really funny moment that I think is just like bad writing. I don't know if you caught it, but the General Havoc is in the Metallosaurus. I do like the sound of Metallosaurus. It's a cool name to say.
Sounds
And
like a metal band from the '80s or something.
um
We
and
are Metallosaurus. Thank you, Cleveland.
yes,
Anyways,
their opening act was the Artillatron, and they were not as good. So
I mean, Artillatron sucks, man. I'm here for a Metallosaurus. Those guys suck.
a concert later, we return to
Yeah.
Power Rangers with so the Rangers are like trying to track the Zord, the Metallosaurus, and
Mhm.
General Havoc is jamming their signals, and they're like, we can't track him. And I'm like, guys, Angel Grove is not that big of a city that you can't spot a giant robot. Just a thought.
This feels like a plot convenience, I guess, or something that we're just going to ignore that for now, because it's kind of funny because there's actually it's funny that they even mentioned that, because I believe in this episode Bulk and Skull mention, hey, or Lieutenant Stone mentions, hey, this building has the best view of Angel Grove in the city. You'll be able to see everything from here. And it's like, if they can see out of a office window the thing, then why can't the Rangers just like, oh, there it is?
Yeah, look at the Rangers and their advanced technology, but do not have eyes, apparently. But this is also like one of those little moments where you can tweak the dialogue just ever so slightly, where you could say,
Mhm.
like, oh, he's jamming the communication and he's taunting us. And then like his face appearing on the screen makes a little bit more sense. But
I, I
I
think I
digress.
think I think something that would make it a little more fun is like, because the Rangers don't have the Megazords, they don't have that additional protection from the Metalsaurus. So um, they're reluctant to go out there and find it, and like they're trying to use technology but it's being jammed. So like then they get taunted and it's like, well, we're risking a lot by going out of the command center and trying to track it down, but somebody's got to do it. And Alpha could just be like, yo, 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 Rangers, what are you doing? And it's like, shut up,
Lord.
Alpha.
His
God,
voice is like, okay, it's not even his voice itself that's the problem. It's the accent. It's like, did
yeah.
you grow up in the suburbs of Brooklyn? No, shut up.
Oh my
Like
lord.
I don't understand where this voice came from or why he's still talking like this.
I don't know. Um,
I've been rewatching The Nanny, so that is why that just came out.
I love it. Love Fran Drescher. But like, um, God, you're right. I've one more pass with the script on like either of these past two episodes, and it would have made a little more sense, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I also forgot to mention that in the darkest day, which is like a really weird name for the episode because it means nothing.
Uh,
There's a scene where TJ says, "We're gonna need the turbo," and it cuts off. The turbo what? Turbo blaster? Turbo
I
saber? Turbo inflatable boat?
the turbo shark repellent, like I don't know, like
All right. So
I'm
they
glad
get
you got that, by the
attacked
way.
by the Piranhatrons, and something interesting happens. The Piranhatrons have some cool music.
I, you know, I felt like I had heard this before. Um, I don't know if the Piranatrons co-opted something from the Tenga or Tengu, if you will, but hmm.
Ron Wasserman, tell us your secrets. I will get. I think it's funny though because the song is not pro Piranhatron. It's actually like anti Piranhatron.
Yeah.
I should go back and like read through the lyrics, but I remember looking and like this is a cool, Ron Wasserman, musical number here, but it's like not like it's sort of like making fun of the Piranhatrons, which is very easy to do.
At least they don't look as dumb as they did in the movie.
I don't even remember anymore. The movie has like I remember the movie existed. And I remember a few select scenes from that movie, but for some reason the Piranhatron just disappeared.
They had the half mask with like the makeup and stuff, and the faces were actually visible on the actor.
Yeah,
It was
nope,
bad.
can't remember.
It was
It's
bad.
gone.
Anyways,
There are some things my brain does not want me to hold on to, and I'm okay with that.
useless information out that here. More information in this one.
Okay, so they're in the middle of this fight. And for some reason, the Phantom Ranger picks now to show up, and he's like, hey, we gotta go now. And they're like, but city in danger, evil robot. He's like, no, we have to go. You have to trust me. You can't just tell them I found Zords, let's go. Like, why does he show up right now? Like, yes, because the power of plot convenience, but they easily in the previous episode could have established that, like, hey guys, I have a lead on something. I will come get you when I find it. Right? So then
Mm-hmm.
him coming back in the middle of the battle, going like, hey guys, I found some Zords. Or like, I found something that can help you defeat the Metallosaurus. Would have taken like not a lot of time.
No, that could have easily been a communicator message. That could have easily been just like, yeah. And also like, I love how he shows up and like doesn't help with the actual fight. Like, dude, okay, awesome.
But also, we find out in this episode that he has his own Zord, which he could have used to, like, I don't know, keep the Metallosaurus at bay and send the Rangers the coordinates for their new Zords.
Here's, by the way, real fast. Here's how much I here's how out of the loop I am with Turbo. I honestly didn't realize that that was his Zord.
Yeah, because they don't tell you.
Yeah. Um, I've seen that on like multiple like toy collector shelves, and I'm like, that's really cool. I wish I had something like that because I don't have any of the Turbo Zords. I had no idea that that was the Phantom Ranger Zord. I honestly thought that was some kind of like carrier unit.
Wait a minute. Was it? Oh no, never mind. That was the Blue Centurion, not the Phantom Ranger. Because there's a point, or because the Phantom Ranger had a ship, right?
Yeah, he has a ship.
But this is not the ship. This is the Zord.
Yes.
So where was the Zord? Was it like, is it like a case of like the ship was bigger on the inside? Or
I,
did it like, was it like buried under the ground with the rescue Zords? Like, I have questions.
maybe it was buried with the rescue Zords. I don't know. It's like I'm sitting here trying to rack my brain around that, and it's like because I'm sitting there going like, well, Pyramidas, but at least like the Gold Ranger showed up with Pyramidas. Like this thing comes out of nowhere, and like the Phantom Ranger showed up in his ship. So it's like, where did the like did he co-opt this thing? Like, yeah, oh, this one's mine now. Like what? I'm confused.
I am too. And there's one other reason to be confused. So he takes the Rangers down to the ye old and abandoned Angel Grove tunnels. Um, and
Hopefully they
there's
don't bump into the Ranger or the turtles there.
and so there's like a wall with some writing on it. There's no analysis for this wall, and he blasts this and it doesn't work. And so then the Rangers blast it, and then we don't find out what happens. Because then it cuts to Diva Talks, and then I think it cuts to Alpha and Demetria. Because only then after that, so like I will be honest, I was like watching it while doing something else, but I saw the Zord show up and I'm like, wait a minute. So I rewound it back to that last scene with the Rangers, thinking I had missed a scene, and I
You had
hadn't.
not. You had not missed a thing.
What do you think about this situation?
There's a couple of possible explanations. Maybe when in the Car Ranger footage they saw these things, it was too goofy or something, or there was a character that was only Sentai related that like showed them because I don't know. There's all kinds of really goofy stuff that they cut out of Car Ranger. That could be the explanation for it. Or maybe they just wanted to speed it up because like they had so much stuff they needed to tell in 3 episodes. I don't know. I'll tell you what kind of upsets me though is like the quest that the different ranger teams have gone on at this point to find other Zords, and it's like these ones are like the most powerful ones, and like hearing all the lore behind like the Shogun Megazord, and then like all the power behind like the Zeo Megazord and the Super Megazord and like Paramidas and all that stuff. And now we're being told these, not the Turbo Megazord, but this Megazord, the Rescue Megazord, is the most powerful Megazord ever. And it's like lying underneath, like in a sewer somewhere. It's like just randomly just sitting there.
Yep.
Uh,
This is yet another set of Zords that just mysteriously exist. Maybe this is the one maybe this is the set of Zords that Billy was working on.
maybe at which at this point, that right there, if the rumor had been true and the Phantom Ranger was in fact Billy, that would have made way more sense.
Yeah, but at the same time, why then? Like, one of the challenges of the Phantom Ranger, and we can discuss this more at the end of the episode, is the fact that, like, we never actually find out anything about him.
Yeah,
And they really don't give us a good reason for why he has to be all mysterious.
like were they trying to do a redo on like the Gold Ranger kind of sorta where it was like, oh well, we wanted him to be super mysterious, but like we eventually had to tell his story, so this time we're just gonna make it so like he's constantly
Yeah,
in the
but the
suit.
difference with the Gold Ranger saga was that there were enough plants. There were enough sort of like there was enough red herrings
Red
essentially,
herring.
right? To make us question to give us options as to who the Phantom Ranger is. Our only options are Bulk and Skull and Lieutenant Stone. So unlikely, unless it was one of the really random bad acting kids from like Justin's like adventures. But anyway,
It was one of the greaser actors from that really crappy West Side Story episode that we watched. Uh
yeah, yeah. So let me ask you this. Do you think this should have been a two-parter
uh
or a three-parter? We can discuss if it should have been a three-parter at the end, but now I want to know if it should have been a two-parter.
I it's funny because typically I have a really strong opinion about whether or not an episode, like a set of episodes, should or should not have been a three-parter or a two-parter. But like, as disjointed as a lot of this stuff is, I don't know.
That's fair.
I don't know. And like it's weird that like that's my answer because like I want to say definitively yes or no, but like I honestly don't know. I feel like because this doesn't really feel like a trilogy necessarily. I mean, yes, there's an overarching plot line here where it's like thing happens and whatnot, but like I would argue that um the Turbo Megazord plot goes even further past this trilogy of episodes. So it doesn't feel like there's a huge resolve there because like there's still like stuff to anticipate in that fourth episode coming up, which you'll be listening to that soon enough. But like we still don't know at the end of that third episode, what the fate of the Turbo Megazord is going to be. And so I guess in a way, I guess it could have been a three-parter. I feel like sure, but it doesn't necessarily feel like I don't I
Yeah,
mean
no, that's okay. That's fair.
I'm trying to make an argument and I don't know what for.
That's a good question. So, any other last thoughts on One Last Hope, which again, these episode titles don't really fit into the episode itself, which is like, you know, like
Um,
like Phantom Phenomenon was the introduction of the Phantom Ranger, so it makes sense it would be called Phantom Phenomenon. But like The Darkest Day was like it was unfortunate, but like I guess it was the darkest day because they lost as Rangers to General Havoc. But
yeah,
like,
I feel like if you name an episode The Darkest Day and it's not like that episode where the Megazord in MMPR is suffering from like an eclipse or something, like then I don't know, like that doesn't feel like The Darkest Day to me. It's like, oh no, our Megazord got kidnapped and taken to not the moon. What the truly the darkest day scene. I don't know. It just that doesn't really feel like the stakes are high, but it doesn't feel like those are the highest stakes that the Rangers overall have dealt with just yet. I mean, like maybe this team of Rangers, sure, but like I don't know. Um, I will say, um, the Rescue Megazords um feel like a precursor to the Lightspeed Rescue Zords.
I also had that thought. Yeah.
Um, I love how that footage is shot, like the Sentai footage is shot where like it combines and they're in the cockpit and it zooms back and like you can see Angel Grove. Um and uh it feels like um I love the design of like the Red Zord and how like the back of it kind of comes up and like does one of these things where it like folds the back like exhaust ports kind of fold forward and that kind of becomes like the front facing. It's a really cool looking Megazord and I'm sad that it's not in my collection because um I have a giant collection of Megazords, both Japanese and American, and I'm still buying them, and like that needs to go on my list, that and the Delta Megazord from In Space. But anyways, um That's a really cool looking Megazord. I think it looks cooler than the Turbo Megazord, honestly. And I think it was a really cool design. Also, Vulcan's skull wasting all that food.
They were so excited about the cafeteria on whatever floor it was on.
Floor 48, I want to say.
Sure.
I think. I think there's a note here. Yes. And all that food and like I don't know what drink it was. Like, was that like a milkshake or a coffee or something that they were trying to run back and
Milkshake.
rescue?
It was a milkshake.
Was it a milkshake? Okay. That looked like a really good milkshake. I'm not gonna lie. Kind of looked like a pumpkin spice milkshake or something, or like a
Mm.
coffee. I don't know. Anyways, it seemed it didn't seem necessarily out of character, but I was like, you guys are running a monster. You guys are running a monster tour. You've seen this stuff a billion times,
Yeah.
and you're gonna like buckle under pressure because giant scary robot is outside, and you're gonna waste all that food.
In their defense, the building does get broken in half and they end up falling. And if it hadn't been for Ash, was it Ashley's Zord? I
I think
think
it
it was
was actually
Ashley's
Zord.
Zord.
Yeah.
Which I actually thought was really cool because her Zord was able to just like catch the building essentially
Mm-hmm.
from falling. And then she put it on Carlos's rescue Zord's truck
Mm-hmm.
bed. So I thought that was really cool. So like, even if they weren't gonna waste the food was gonna end up all over the place anyway because they were in the build part of the
I
building
mean
that
that's fair.
fell.
I'm just saying I could go for a burger right now. That's all I'm saying. But
Poor Vulcan
anyways,
Skull. This is like
yeah.
this could have been their like this could have been their job, like giving tours, talking about monsters. But I wonder like at what point do you just get like desensitized by all of the monsters and be like, oh, is there another monster attacking the abandoned warehouse district? Okay, I guess we're not going for that drive.
I mean, Home Depot can wait. I'll just go on my phone. Um,
This is the 90s. You don't go on your phone.
I'll just dial them up with this catalog number.
There you go. All
Yeah.
right. So the final
Get
episode
off
that we're
the internet. I'm trying to call the depot. Your 56K is killing me. I'm trying to
cue
call the
dial-up music.
depot.
All right. So on that note, we're gonna go to the last episode.
Yeah.
The Fall of the Phantom. So, in need of a power source to energize the stolen Turbo Megazord. I guess they forgot its AAA. They forgot its charger at Zordon at the at the Power Ranger base.
Yeah.
Divatox plans to steal the Phantom Ranger's Power Ruby, which we've never heard
Ooh.
of until this point. To get close enough to it, Divatox and General Havoc exploit Cassie's fixation on the Phantom Ranger, leading to her capture in hopes of luring him out. So, first of all, it's not a fixation. Girl's got a little crush. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, poor Cassie.
Yeah, I do feel bad for her in this episode.
So the episode opens on the fact that Cassie is like studying, has to study for an exam, but tried to get Miss Appleby to
Applebee.
like take it at a later date because she's been busy with stuff. And Principal Kaplan was like, "Yeah, no, you're just gonna take it with everybody else. Like that's not valid." I'm like, "Girl, you couldn't have made something up. Like you know, food banks, charity auctions,
Clean up the park,
yeah."
or I don't know. Let's see. I think Kimberly and Trini left a giant list of all the things that they did back in the day that you could steal an idea from. You know,
But
like
Rangers shouldn't lie, even though they technically lie to everyone they've ever met. Um, it's fine. It's fine. So
it's
I
fine.
do
It's
think
totally
it's
fine. It's not fine. It's not fine at all. I'm super annoyed with
so
it.
I know that they play up this whole Cassie and the Phantom Ranger stuff, but I actually think she has really good chemistry with TJ. Like they're often like, despite the fact that all of the Rangers are friends, right?
Hmm.
They spend a lot of time together outside of the group, right? Like they went hiking together. And like part of
Hmm.
that is because like, they met on the bus to Angel Grove and like they became besties and they rescued Tommy together, whatever. Even though Cassie was like not interested in doing any of that but like they bonded over this experience. And so I find it interesting that like they really push this whole Cassie and Phantom Ranger stuff, which clearly doesn't go anywhere. And will not go anywhere when like there's Cassie and TJ being like BFFs and doing stuff together.
It's kind of hard to initiate a romantic interest or like kind of like a meet cute when you don't even know what the person you're crushing about's face looks like.
Well, I mean, not all attraction has to be about physical attraction, you know?
I get that, but like if I'm gonna crush over somebody, I don't know, at some point, I'm not saying it needs to be like immediate, but like, I kind of want to see what your face looks like. But whatever, that's just me. But
That does not work in all cultures. But I
that's
will
fair.
say it is like we're never really given a good explanation about why he can't tell them anything about who he is.
I'm dark and brooding and mysterious, and
Like they're really trying to give us this mysterious Phantom Ranger, but it's not working very well.
to tell you anything about my past, Lupita, basically make me not exist.
Okay, this is giving me some Dark Knight flashbacks and not in a good way, so we're gonna move on.
Okay, sorry.
You're fine. I'm making jokes at your expense. That's all.
Please do. That's why I'm here. I'm just like dark brooding. Oh, no one can know my identity. It's like, okay, okay, dude.
So Cassie gets a note being all mysterious like, meet me in the park, girl. And she's like, oh, it's the Phantom
Girl.
Ranger, which granted, that was my first thought too. You're supposed to think it's the Phantom Ranger. And then when she arrives, you see the Phantom Ranger hiding behind the bushes. But it turns out not to be the Phantom Ranger. It turns out to be General Havoc and his gang.
Mm-hmm.
And so they kidnap Cassie and they tell the Rangers, like, give us the Phantom Ranger or Cassie gets it. And they're like, but we don't know where the Phantom Ranger is. And they're like, well, this message is for the Phantom Ranger. You got to come or Cassie gets it. I'm like, all right. I mean, like, it makes sense for the Phantom Ranger to come. Like, him and Cassie was the first to spot him, first to meet him. Like, they have this bond, whether it's romantic or not. They have, like, this, like, there's something there, whatever it is.
Sure.
So the Rangers go to Cassie, and this is where, like, my question came from about TJ and Cassie, because TJ seems like the most upset when they think Cassie's dead. Like they're upset, but like TJ's a little extra upset, and that could have just been, good acting.
Yeah.
But then the Phantom Ranger shows up kind of too late, but also not too late, I guess.
Yeah. He shows up and he's like, "Don't worry, I can help save the day because he's got the power ruby, which is coming out of his chest, which a lot of people who collect the Lightning Collection figures are like, where there's a plug for that in his chest on the figure. Why isn't that there? Whatever. I collect action figures. You don't. I get it.
Because no,
Uh,
no, 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 no. I'm not that was not my reaction. My reaction was like because they never the power reboot shows up for what 2 episodes.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I honestly didn't even notice it until like they made a point where it's like Divatox was like, I want that ruby. I didn't even realize that was a thing. I just thought
Yep.
it was a cool looking tokusatsu thing. Um, but like, um, what's really interesting about this is like Havoc doesn't just do a swerve. Havoc does a double swerve. Because he Phantom Ranger obviously cares a lot about Cassie. There's something there, and like he's trying to save Cassie, brings Cassie back, and then Cassie turns into Havoc and teleports the Phantom Ranger, and it's like, oh well, now they have Cassie and the Phantom Ranger and the Ruby, and I was like, okay, crap. I mean, I wasn't expecting that. Honestly, that was a kind of a genuine swerve. I don't know if it was like a well written swerve, but it was definitely a swerve I was not expecting. How about you?
I don't know. I guess I didn't like it just like didn't click. Um I don't know. These episodes were kind of weird and in some ways blended together so much that like I don't know, but I appreciated the fact that at least General Havoc got a little bit more like theatrical and more like equal to Diva Talks. Because in his first appearance, he's like, "My queen," and yes, my queen. And I'm like, when did she become a queen? She's also technically your sister. This is a little weird,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
It's not how siblings talk, even if they're royalty. I'm sorry.
You know, aliens are weird. Look at how Rita talked to her dad.
See season 3. Um, yeah.
I don't know if that
Uh,
answered your question, but um so we teased the hmm. Oh, so there comes a point. So, you know, obviously the General Havoc gets the ruby, and he kidnaps the Phantom Ranger, and so Cassie and the Phantom Ranger are kidnapped at the same time. And we're so close to finding out who the Phantom Ranger is. Like, Cassie, you couldn't have broken free from the minions like 2 seconds later? Like, come on. But also, like, would the reveal of the Phantom Ranger have really given us anything?
I feel like if it was a returning character, yes. If it was just some random that they cast, maybe not. Because I feel like the Phantom Ranger works better if like it's either like I don't know. It feels like had this been like I don't know, and I'm just throwing this out there because like a lot of people have said like David Yost, but like I don't know, maybe even like a returning like Walter Jones or something, or this that the like I feel like that would have been like way more like oh wow okay holy crap like but then again I don't know like
Well, I
this
think
guy
part
comes
of
from space he's gonna be I don't know. I feel like it's almost like V from V for Vendetta. It's like it doesn't really matter who the person behind the mask is. It's the mask itself. It's the identity that this person is. It's like okay, so I'm the Phantom Ranger, and this is well.
because
Even
like
then, I'm like
because so we've run into the issue where I think they wrote themselves into a corner a little bit where he's
probably.
either going to be somebody we know or somebody we've never met. And so if it's somebody we've never met, why does his why does his identity matter to us, right? Who cares
Mhm.
if he's an alien from Altar and he's Zordon's son or like he's, you know, some former villain? Like it doesn't matter. Because we don't like it doesn't do anything for us. But if it's like somebody we know, then like if it is like Zach coming back, why can't we know about it? Why is
There's
his
one
identity has to be so mysterious?
there's one other person I feel like it could have possibly been, and that would have been kind of cool, considering his connections to Zordon and Alpha. Um, because also this show kind of failed. What if it had been Prince Dax from Masked Rider?
Oh. Oh, that would have
Because
been cool.
that could have been like something happened with his, Masked Rider, Kamen Rider Black RX suit, and this is like maybe something happened. You know what? Hold on, I got an idea here. So let's say something happened with him in the span of that series off screen, and now he's got to have that suit to kind of like help him out because something happened in the Masked Rider suit, and like it's keeping him alive, and like that's the reason why the ruby is so important. Because then, like the forehead ruby too, right? So you could do something with that, and it could be like he's on life support, kind of like Darth Vader or something, and that's why he's so reluctant to take off the mask. And then
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm a previous ally to you, but like, I kind of only met you guys once or twice,
And technically it wasn't
and
even them.
yeah, it was those Mighty Morphin guys, and Goyles, but that honestly, that
And
that
like, yeah,
honestly, that kind of works for me.
and you could have connected General Havoc with like the bad guys in that crossover or backdoor pilot and like, so that there's like
Mm.
some kind of connection.
What was
Um,
his name? Dragon or whatever.
whatever. So yeah,
Yeah.
that actually would have been interesting. And it does sort of like it is a little bit weird about like why we can't know who he is, but I guess ultimately it doesn't matter because he is an ally to the Rangers, no matter how awkwardly he's written sometimes.
Yeah.
So there's a point where Cassie escapes and promises to come back for the Phantom Ranger. And then there's like a Zord battle where we have the rescue Zords, which can turn into individual mini Zords and then also combine, which because robots that turn into other things and then into the Megazord are cool.
Like combiner robots almost.
Yeah. And so there's a part where Havoc like waves the little cage with the Phantom Ranger, like, ooh, look what I got. And I'm like, did you think they weren't going to attack you because you had him there? Like for a guy who's like really calculating and has like these like pretty decent destroy the like he's had like legitimate success and really sticking it to the Rangers. This is kind of foolish. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, thinking that that's gonna protect you from like, the ass whooping that you're about to get. It's like, probably not your smartest move. It I could definitely like see Cassie being more reluctant to try and attack because oh no, I don't want to I don't want to harm the Phantom Ranger. But like ultimately, that's not going to stop the attacks. And also, by the way, I think what's kind of cool about these is these Zords. It kind of is like the third in a series of us getting like with the Shogun Megazord and then with the Super Zeo Megazord, like everybody getting their own individual bipedal like robot. You know, I think that's pretty cool. I love that they were doing that, and I don't know why they stopped doing that in Japan, but I think it looks really cool, and it offers like a cooler way to like do Zord battles, and it's a shame that we haven't gotten that much recently, and like it's not just Power Rangers, like in Sentai, like they really haven't been doing that much. Like I think with Zenkaiger they might have done that a little bit, but like it's an idea that's like unfortunately kind of stuck in the 90s, which sucks because it looks cool. But no, I don't think it would have stopped the Rangers from like dangling him and being like, ooh, ooh, yeah, that's no, that's what are
If
you doing?
anything, that made it easier to rescue him, as we see later in the up, like 2 seconds later.
Mm-hmm.
So General Havoc's is defeated but not destroyed because we can't say the K word because this is the kid show
Nope.
people. Um,
People
s-
don't die in Power Rangers; they just get really big boo boos.
yes. So the Phantom Ranger sort of stumbles. He doesn't have the ruby anymore, and that seems to have hurt him. Um, so we see him stumbling back in that tunnel. So is he now powerless without I know there's one more episode that you are not reviewing with me. So I guess for me this is like what's like I'm left with questions of like, "Oh my God, is the Phantom Ranger okay? What's going to happen to him now?"
Mm-hmm. Find out next time on Voices from the Grid. Sorry, I had to do that,
No, that
but
was well done. That was well done.
thank you. But uh, so it definitely seems like that's like his power source, and a just for the sake of like not spoiling it and like letting you guys who are listening now kind of lead into like kind of what your appetite for the next episode. um well, I don't know, maybe it will be the end of the Phantom Ranger, I don't know, but it definitely seems like, to get serious about it, it definitely seems like that's a really big power source of his, and he's definitely stunted without it. And I don't know exactly what his play is going back into the sewer at this point. Like, I guess maybe because
Maybe
The
he
first
lived
thing,
down there with the Ninja Turtles.
yeah, Splinter's going to get him a nice pizza and wrap him up. It'll be okay. They'll wrap him up in a nice blanket and put on the Channel 3 news. April's coming on. It'll be okay. Now I think like part of me was like, well, I mean, like that's his power source, but like I don't know, does he have like a backup auxiliary thing in the ship? And like I'm being serious. Like, does he have a backup power source, or like what's he trying to do? Because like it seems like I guess he's kind of like a wounded animal at this point where he's trying to get back and like isolate or whatever. But like the smart thing wouldn't be to like run away from the people who are trying to help you.
Because, like, it's not like the Power Rangers don't have, like, a base with, like, things and computers and sciencey stuff they can do.
It's not like they have a center where they can like issue commands or something like a
Mhm.
command center.
I don't know what that is.
No,
No, never heard of it.
apparently it was in an episode of Star Trek where Data was like with lore or something. I don't remember.
No,
Anyways,
that would make sense.
yeah.
Um, so my final question out of these three episodes is, was General Havoc overall a good villain?
As far as the context of these episodes, yes, he was a great villain. He came in, he did what he set out to do. He set clear, established goals. He went above and beyond. He took out a Megazord. He got, he got the Rangers on their toes. He kidnapped Cassie. He kidnapped freaking, Phantom Ranger. He got his Ruby, and now it's like, okay, what's gonna happen next? Like Havoc is a great name for him because that's what he did. He wreaked havoc.
Yeah,
He
definitely.
gave the Rangers probably their biggest L since the command center blew up.
And actually, is this the first big L for this team of Rangers?
Yes.
Is it
I
really?
want to say it is. I want to say it is.
Yeah, I think you're right. Or at the
Because
very
these
least,
guys
it's
have
the
not been around that
biggest.
long.
Yeah, at the very least, it's like the biggest L. Because so far they've done pretty well, destroying the monsters of the week kind of stuff with a little help from the Phantom Ranger. But to lose a Megazord is a big deal.
Yeah.
And like, we made fun of the acting at the end of One Last Hope, or was it One Last Hope?
I think it was Darkest Day.
In the at the darkest day, um, of like, them being, but like you can tell they're actually like really devastated. And TJ, who we know is like a really analytical person, is like, oh, I should have done this. I should have done more. Like it's like he can't, it's like he's blaming himself. But I'm like, bro, this was
Mhm.
not on anybody. This was inevitable. But you can tell that like they're really like crushed by this loss.
Yeah. It's a big one, and you know, spoilers. It's a sign of things to come. I think. Um, I'm gonna leave it at that. But like, you know,
It
man,
does seem like this is foreshadowing the. Okay, so I'm not crazy because I also had the thought that this was foreshadowing the end of the season
yes,
because you have
it's
a space base. Divatox has gotten all of these upgrades. She's gonna conquer. The Rangers lose their Zord. Like this is no bueno.
yeah, no bueno no mas, and it definitely feels like this is like kind of because to me it's like it's storytelling 101 where it's like the heroes are at their lowest and then they have to like rise above that and come back, and it's like it feels like this is like their begin into that descent where like, oh, and they're just going to keep nosediving at a certain point where like, yeah, they're going to pull out some victories, but inevitably like this season is going to be like, uh, you guys stay tuned for that. Anybody who's seen this season before, you already know what I'm talking about, but I don't want to spoil it for anybody who's watching along with us. I do have one thing for you.
Uh-oh.
You told me to bring up the Vulcan skull gag from the beginning of the episode.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. So Bulk and Skull shtick, and this is the first time they've really had a long-standing shtick in a while.
Hmm.
So this time they are running this Lieutenant Stone's Power Ranger business. And one of the things that's funny and is consistent throughout all three episodes is not just the fact that they're giving tours and referencing monsters and stuff. It's the fact that they never bothered to change the brochure, which states that you will see Power Rangers and monsters. I just thought it was a funny gag that this is like consistent throughout the three episodes. And also, like, there's a point where Bulk and Skull ask TJ and Ashley and the gang if they would dress up as Power Rangers in those really weird looking suits. And then who did they end up using for those suits instead?
I I didn't catch that. I'm gonna be honest. I did not catch that.
I'm guessing it was people from the Angel Grove nursing home. Instead of
Oh,
like, going back to high school and finding a bunch of teenagers with attitude and just like hiring them. Oh, Bulk and Skull, we love you. They're doing their best. They're doing their best. But I do
um,
find it like, I don't know, it was just an interesting sort of like the fact that they stuck with it for three episodes. Um but it's also like it's something that's in their wheelhouse, which again also sort of hints at what they're going to be doing next season, I feel like, just a little bit.
Probably, yeah. I can see that. Now I will say, what would have been a little more fun to, and you only have so much, and like I'm gonna try not to, go at length of this. And by the way, I do want to mention, I thought it was hilarious that Volk was holding up the blue suit that he made and was talking to Justin and was like, sorry, kiddo, you're a little too short for this one. And it's like, ah, wow,
Eh.
irony of all ironies, huh? But I don't know. I think it's with this particular gig, if you could go back and rewrite this, just at the point that they're at in their journey before, obviously like in space and they have their big moment, which, I'm not going to get into that right now. We will get to that when we get to that. I cannot wait to talk about that. But um, here they are giving a tour, which,
Mhm.
by the way, like I said, you can absolutely go on something like this at Power Morphicon. They will drive you around. You can see a lot of the same spots that they're showing these people in this episode. Um, but I would think like Vulcan Skull would have like firsthand experience with like, oh yeah, we've seen it all. We've seen putties, we've seen Z putties, we've seen Tengu, we've seen Cogs, we've seen all this stuff. We've seen all these different monsters. We've been fishing where like, at this lake, and all of a sudden there was, this crazy thing that came out of the water and scared the bejesus out of us.
Which time?
Right? You know what I mean? They can have a, that's the thing. They have a list. They have like at length a list of encounters and experiences with the Mighty Morphin Rangers, the Zeo Rangers, um, you know, all this different stuff that's happened. And like, I'm just imagining, oh God, what's his name? I can't, oh, my friend's going to kill me for this, but I can't remember what the guy's name is at the end of like Blade Runner, but he's sitting there just like, I've seen things you people won't believe. I've seen Z beams, like they that could have been their moment. That could have been their like Rutger Hauer moment, kind of sort of, where they're like, yeah, we've seen things that like you wouldn't believe because like we've been in the sticks with this, and instead it's like they're just kind of, I don't know. It feels like there could have been more. I feel like it's a very big missed opportunity. They could have really, this could have been a love letter to like the past like four seasons.
You're asking a lot here from a side plot. Just
I
just just
I
just, just laying that down for you now.
I know I am. I know I'm asking a lot, but like,
One of the things that I sort of wonder is each season Bulk and Skull had a separate shtick.
yeah.
By and then it sort of culminates into what we see in the Countdown to Destruction. But the question is like how much of that was intentional and how much of just was just coincidental? So that's something to, I guess, ask Judlin and a whole bunch of other people. But ultimately, I think it would have been, if I were to rewrite the side plot, I think it would have been interesting if it was a little bit like more like a real tour.
Hmm.
With like maybe placards and some of the ruins of like, here's where the monster from last week destroyed the thing. And Angel Grove was still being rebuilt. And maybe that's sort of like at the end of, I know this is asking a lot from these like three filler episodes, essentially. Well, they're not really filler because they're, adding stuff that happens later. But if it would have been like, hey, Bulk, hey, Skull, like maybe we should think about like, maybe joining the reconstruction crew or like, helping
Yeah.
with, crowd control during monster attacks. But then again, they're still scared of monsters. So maybe that's not something they're going to think about.
They could have done something like, I don't know, just something throwaway where like there's like a photo or something. Like at they could have like redone like a mock-up of the port where the Dragon Zord comes out of, and they could have been like for a while. I don't know if you guys remember this, but the Green Ranger used to come out, and like this right here is where the Dragon Zord used to come out, and some people say it lays dormant to this day. They could have done something like that. You know what I mean? It's like because technically, like the Dragon Zord is still kind of laying dormant. It didn't go away during the Thunder Zord thing. It like you know um and that wasn't one of the Zords that was destroyed in season two. So they could have done something with that. I don't know, but you know,
That is the questions that will not be, never be answered, at least not
yeah.
for a while. So with that, Brian, I will ask you this only once. Where
Yes.
can the people find you on the social medias?
You can find me on Twitter. I refuse to call it X. At One Drunk Geek. You can also find me with the Castwave guys over at castwavestudios.com. Currently, our show is Two Fat Guys Eat that we're working on. We are working on, just give you a little inside baseball, we are kind of pitching around possibly bringing back Bully Going Nowhere. That should be fun. You can also find me on Instagram at Dragon22 and on TikTok at Blue Ranger B underscore RYE, where I interact with a lot of other Ranger fans on TikTok and make silly videos. And I, talk about Power Rangers and Super Sentai and Kamen Rider and all kinds of other stuff. How about you? Where can we find you on the World Wide Web?
Oh, I'm very complicated. I am at Geeky Kaplan on everything, literally everything. Instagram, Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky. I am on
Awesome.
there. It is Geeky Kaplan with a K after the greatest superhero in the Marvel Universe, Billy Kaplan. As you can see, my voice held out pretty I did a good job, but
I,
it's
I'm
starting to
I'm
set
proud of
in.
you.
Um, and of course, you can find our show on Spotify, um, txhthockey.com, and on Twitter at VFTG underscore PR. So with that, Brian, take us out.
Thank you all for joining us for yet another more phenomenal episode. Be sure to follow us, and until next time, be sure to grab your turbo morphers and your turbo keys.
And may the power protect you.